Welcome to ScaleUp Radio Shorts, brought to you by Smart 90, the proven 90-day execution system for scaling businesses. I'm Kevin Brent, and joining me is my co-host and fellow originator of Smart 90, Louise Blunt.
Hi everyone, this is our monthly theme episode where we highlight an important aspect of scaling up from our entrepreneurial scale-up system. Today, we are diving deep into the execution pillar, specifically focusing on business development.
It's a massive topic, Louise, and one that causes a lot of headaches for founders. Most business owners know exactly why their last 3 clients came to them, but they are much less clear about how their next 3 are going to arrive.
That's so true, Kevin. The majority of small and medium-sized businesses grow by referral in their early years, which is fantastic, but they often fail to build the systems that would allow them to grow beyond word of mouth.
Right.
When those referrals inevitably slow down, the business has no engine to fall back on because there is no plan, no process, and no predictability.
Exactly. And that lack of predictability leads to what we call the panic response. When the pipeline runs thin, the business owner suddenly goes into overdrive, attending events, posting frantically on LinkedIn, or calling old contacts. They win some work, get busy delivering it, the selling stops, and a few months later, they are right back to a thin pipeline. It's why so many businesses fluctuate wildly between being overworked and underbooked.
The other extreme is just as dangerous, the belief that volume fixes everything. People think if they just send enough emails or make enough calls, the numbers will eventually work out. But as Mike Adams from IntroStars pointed out on ScaleUp Radio, the old game of sending 1,000 cold emails a day for a 4% response rate is dying.
It is.
Open rates and conversion rates are dropping, and now AI tools are automating this outreach to create a zero-sum game of AI versus AI.
The antidote to both the panic response and the volume trap is a system. We aren't talking about a burst of activity or a short-term campaign. We need a consistent, structured set of actions that happen regardless of whether the pipeline is full or empty and whether the owner is busy or not.
Exactly.
This system must be something that can be tracked, measured, and improved over time.
And to build that system, we look to a brilliant framework developed by Aaron Ross called Seeds, Nets, and Spears, which we have combined with the lead generation matrix from our entrepreneurial scale-up system. The goal here isn't to do more marketing, but rather to do fewer things far more consistently, knowing that they actually work.
Let's break down that framework, starting with seeds. Seeds are leads that grow from relationships, referrals, and reputation.
Right.
They are relatively low in volume, but they convert at a very high rate. A seed arrives pre-qualified and pre-warmed because someone the prospect trusts has already done some of the selling for you.
They are the highest quality leads, but they are also the hardest to scale. The mistake people make is hoping for referrals rather than building an engine to generate them. Referrals often feel passive. A client mentions you to a colleague, you get a call, and you chalk it up to good fortune.
Yeah.
But a scaling business designs referral generation right into their process.
Siva Kugathas from Service Master Clean gave us a great perspective on this. He mentioned that while recommendations are his most successful source of work, he doesn't count on them exclusively because it's not something they are actively driving. That's the key question for our listeners. Can you build referral activity into your process so it stops being accidental?
Exactly. It's about building a referral program. Mike Adams suggests that we should focus our energy on warm introductions rather than building AI spam bombs, because people actually read emails sent by someone they know.
That's a great point.
You can make this a habit simply by having an end-of-project conversation where you specifically ask for introductions. That turns it into a structured process rather than a favor.
Benji Hughes from Hopeless Marketing takes this a step further with a concept he calls stacking the network. He focuses heavily on talking consistently with the people he already has a strong relationship with. He prioritizes people who fit his ideal client profile and specifically asks them to bring more of those types of people into his network. When your relationships are deep enough and your targeting is precise, the conversion happens almost without effort.
It really does. But as a business grows, seeds alone aren't enough to generate the required volume. That's where nets come in. Nets are leads that come through inbound channels and marketing programs like content, events, advertising, SEO, and social media.
Right, the classic channels.
They cast a wide net and bring in higher volumes, though typically at lower conversion rates than seeds.
The beauty of nets is that they are highly scalable. Once you find out what works and once the economics are understood, you can largely automate them.
Right, it becomes a machine.
The challenge most business owners face isn't understanding nets in theory, it's building them into a systematic process that doesn't rely on a sudden burst of enthusiasm every quarter.
Digital marketing specialist Flynn Blackie emphasizes that you have to scale a system, not a campaign. A campaign runs with a dedicated budget and then stops, but a system is a machine. He says that once you understand your critical metric, the cost per acquisition, you can comfortably scale your spending.
And let's not forget the crucial advice from David Holland of Exceller. He rightly points out that while you can delegate marketing tasks, you must always retain the responsibility for strategy.
So important.
As a business owner, you can outsource the writing of content or the management of ads, but you cannot outsource the decision about which markets to target or whether the system is actually working.
That's a really vital point for the execution pillar. And by the way, nets don't have to be purely digital.
Good point.
Speaking engagements can be incredibly effective nets. Benji Hughes notes that sharing what he knows as an authority in a room full of the right people is a fantastic way to stack his network. It requires preparation, but it compounds over time through the relationships it creates in that room.
Which brings us to the third type of lead, spears. Spears are the result of targeted outbound effort. This is direct contact with specific named individuals or organizations that you have identified as your ideal prospects.
This is the area where people often get it wrong. Cold outreach at scale is not a spear, it's just a poorly performing net pretending to be a spear.
Right.
A genuine spear is highly targeted, carefully researched, and so relevant to the recipient that it doesn't even feel like outreach.
Proper spear preparation requires deep audience research. Flynn Blackie says that people often fail because they stop at basic descriptions like company directors. You need to go deeper. What do they want? What is causing them pain? What is their turnover? By segmenting the audience, you can deliver highly personalized messages.
Luke Doyle from Bravura Digital built his agency on this exact premise, protecting a client's brand through personalization and moving away from notorious spam tactics. And there is a real emotional cost to getting it wrong. As Siva Kugathas pointed out, hearing 99 no's a day from high-volume cold outreach can be incredibly depressing for your sales team.
Absolutely.
10 well-crafted, highly researched outreach messages a week will consistently outperform 100 generic ones without destroying your team's motivation.
So we have our seeds, nets, and spears. The question is, how do we put this all together into an execution plan? This is where the lead generation matrix comes in. It takes the three types of leads and crosses them with a second dimension, whether the activity is aimed at people you already know or brand new prospects.
This creates a matrix of 6 boxes. For example, box 1 is seeds for known contacts, like referrals from existing clients. Box 4 is nets for unknown prospects, like paid advertising or SEO.
Okay.
The discipline here is absolute focus. The instinct is always to fill every box with multiple activities, which usually means doing none of them well. Instead, you need to identify just one strong activity for each box that will have the most impact.
Once you have those core activities, you need to turn them into a cookbook. A cookbook is a documented set of daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly activities required to keep the lead generation machine running.
Right, the process.
For example, your cookbook entry for client referrals might state that at the end of every project, there is a scheduled conversation asking for 2 specific introductions. It documents the process, the timing, who does it, and how it is tracked.
Businesses that scale successfully are doing the same things as small businesses. They are just doing them far more consistently. The cookbook is the mechanism that makes consistency possible. But a cookbook is useless if you don't make time for it, which brings us to the default diary.
Absolutely critical. The default diary concept means taking all the recurring activities from your cookbook and putting them into your diary before anything else.
Protect the time.
Block out Tuesday and Thursday mornings for outbound calls. Block out the first Monday of the month to review your conversion rates. If these activities are not protected in the diary, they will inevitably be crowded out by whatever seems most urgent that day. Lead generation that only happens in the gaps of your schedule is not a system. It's a panic response.
As you scale this up and build a mature system, you can start tracking every metric. Siva Kugathas tracks every pound gained against every pence of cost. That level of discipline allows you to know exactly which activities to scale up and which ones to stop, effectively freeing you to eventually outsource the lead generation tasks to third parties while keeping your team focused on conversion.
It really boils down to dedicating the time to execute. We recommend listeners block out a 90-minute focus session to map this out. Look at your last 6 months of leads to see which matrix boxes are full and which are empty.
Right.
Define your ideal client precisely, brainstorm your 6 core activities, write the first draft of your cookbook, and block the time in your diary for the next 4 weeks.
That 90-minute investment is enough to get you generating leads far more consistently than you were yesterday. Well, that's all we've got time for today on this deep dive into the business development execution pillar. Remember, listeners, you can find out more about Smart 90 and our proven execution assistance by visiting smart90.co.uk. And you can request a copy of the Seeds, Nets and Spears booklet that we've been discussing today by emailing Kevin directly at kevin@smart90.co.uk. That's smart90.co.uk.
Thank you, Louise. And before we go, I want to leave you with this thought. Most founders and teams that I speak to feel busy but stuck. Plenty happening, but not always clear on what genuinely matters this quarter. And if that's you, the G90 Summit is worth a look. It's a structured half day where we work through everything competing for your attention, get clear on the 3 to 5 things that must happen in the next 90 days, and then commit to them and build the system to make sure they actually happen. It's quarterly, it's virtual, it's £97, smart90.co.uk/summit.